We need hip hop to get back to being real baggy.
Yeah. Gotta be baggy.
Razor in the mouth.
This is Andrew Shultz, and he said the show is called Flagrant. I know it's a TikTok clip.
Yeah.
And he's talking about hip hop and the possibility of it perhaps losing its edge. I think the conversation is very good. So let's take a look at this one and then we can react.
I feel like hip hop's going through what rock music went through. Rock music came out and it was like the rebellious, like rejection of society. And I think hip hop came in and did the same thing. It was the rejection of what you should do. Now I think hip hop has become the predominant art form for America. And what happens with that is it's corny. Now, country's popping because it is rebellious. Liking country is like you coming on here saying you like Donald Trump. Everybody's gonna be like, oh, that's kind of crazy, but also it's kind of fire, but oh, that's crazy. Being a person that's out here like, yo, country's cool. I want to wear the cowboy boots. I'm going to wear the cowboy hat. That's sagging your jeans now.
It's also,
that's wearing the bandana. That's putting on a grill. Acting as if you're this country hillbilly motherfucker is a rebellion against modern, not even modern society, popular culture, which is dominated by hip hop.
I also think rejection of the generation before you's culture,
which is dominated by hip hop.
What y'all think about that?
There's some credence to that.
Think so?
Because at one point, really, hip hop was, look, I come at my age as being the oldest of the new old heads, and coming through the system of radio and seeing how a lot of the OGs viewed hip hop. You have to understand, like, this music was specifically for this time. It was like, wait a minute, we don't want to lend our voices in any kind of credibility to hip hop as black people, because we're working through our own respectability politics. Because here it is, like, okay, so we'll take Run DMC. We'll go all the way back to that. All right, here I am as a record company executive. I finally got my expense account. I got my suits. I'm coming in here, and you're trying to tell me you want me to try to sell these guys who have on Godfather hats and leather blazers. These dudes look like liquor store robbers to me. I'm not taking this into the white power establishment and trying to say this is what I'm going to sell. So I'm going to distance myself as much from this as possible. So really, hip hop was about rebellion, not only to the white power structure, but to the black bourgeoisie part of corporate America who finally had made it to a point where they thought that respectability politics was the way to take them to the next level.
Right. Do-gooders.
Exactly. So now those same people who are worried about respectability politics, if you just shifted a little, 30 to 40 years later, when you look at Snoop Dogg as America's #1 pitchman, when you look at, we're able to go ahead and take Megan Thee Stallion and put her on Saturday Night Live, what is rebellious about hip hop at this point?
Right.
I don't see the it used to be hip hop would talk bad about the president no matter who he was.
Facts. Politically charged.
It didn't matter if it was Bill Clinton or Ronald Reagan or George W. Bush. Like, we didn't have no love
for Obama.
Barack Obama. We had no love for the president because the president is always going to be against us because we're at the bottom. Now people take pictures. They want to go hang out with Kamala Harris and play, Sexy Red at the vice president's house. There's not the yeah, exactly. And so, like, now there's part of me that's very disappointed in hip hop and how it's been, it's so mainstream because I come from a different era. And so when he says that thing about the cowboy boots and saying, hey, when people say, I kind of rock with Donald Trump, that is a rebellious spirit, especially if you're talking about somebody black. Now, I don't agree because I know enough about Donald Trump to where that's not a rebellious spirit. You're still within the mainstream when you're talking that. But for people who are not as learned, it's like, oh man, he's wild. He's talking about rocking with Donald Trump. There's a lot of people who are in hip hop right now who are like, especially if you're a part of there's a lot of confluence of things. Like, you talk about you're a part of the manosphere, you want to talk about hip hop, you want to talk about certain things. And then, like, you align yourself with these conservative voices that really, like, all of a sudden everybody wants to be like, what, maybe Candace Owens isn't that bad. Right. Now, knowing what I know about Candace Owens and some of the anti-Semitic things she said, what I know about her anti-blackness,
they like surface level Candace that was on the Breakfast Club.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I was like, yo, you did not challenge her on the Breakfast Club. where you should have challenged her, like, when she takes up for anytime a policeman shoots an unarmed black person, she always takes up for the police.
It's like, where were you the last 7 years?
Exactly. So I do see where there's a lack of rebellion in hip hop because we trying to get to the bag because, everything. Because first of all, you're not selling no records because everything's on streaming. You're trying to get these brand deals, and when you're talking about brand deals, and I talked a little bit about it in the last episode, these brand deals are handed down to you by Fortune 500 companies, and so these Fortune 500 companies are aligned with a lot of these political parties. And that's where their donations come from. So you can't have too much rebellion in your music when you're talking about aligning yourself with brand deals, because that's the only way you can get money. Because unless you're out here touring heavy and you got this real incredible,
which some people are,
but once again, you can't sell enough records. You can't generate enough streams for you to even give yourself an independent voice. And that's the problem with hip hop right now.
What jumped out to me was the fact that he said everything is corny. The word corny goes to what you're talking about in terms of, I guess, anti-dangerous or not being as provocative or whatever you want to call it. But mainstream hip hop, to me, that's the perfect word for it. Agree or not? But I think he hit the nail on the head when he said everything is corny now. Lone talked about, one of y'all mentioned friendliness and how friendly everything is now and how everything is about getting a bag and I need to get this meal attached to my name or get with this Fortune 5. It's all about getting that money. The lack of substance, the lack of anything that would have been 20 or 30 years ago is completely gone now as it relates to this genre. Yeah, you'll have it on the underground, but for the mainstream, he's 100% correct. And I think corny is the perfect word, in my personal opinion, to attach to it.
Look, when Ice Cube,
I can agree to that to a certain extent, though, because even the mainstream country, from the true country fans, they say it's not real country. Okay. They say it's pop. Okay, you know what I'm saying? So essentially, we're on the outside looking into the country genre, so to speak. So we don't really know how it works over there.
I can't speak on it.
Only thing we know about is, well, I wouldn't say the only thing, but you had the Tracy Chapman joint that did really well on the countryside.
Yep.
You had the Jelly Roll joint that did very well on the countryside, and of course the mainstream country artists. But then you have one of the biggest pop stars in the world has crossed over to the countryside, and that being Beyonce.
Right.
But if you listen to her album, it's not 100% country. I was
going to say partially.
Yeah, in fact, the last part of it is just stuff that was left over from the last album. It sounds like to me.
Right. And I think it's like a 3-part series. But I think it kind of goes back to remember we was having a conversation about Afrobeat and how it makes you feel, and it is, we can accredit it to a vibe, not the same type of vibe that we were discussing with rap music and lyrics, so to speak, but it's definitely a vibe that you feel from that Afro beat that makes you want to keep going back and listening to it and getting them record deals. I still don't think that they're going to topple hip hop, but they're rising in the ranks. I don't think hip hop will just cease to exist and become just this corny thing that people don't rock with, like certain types of rock music, because you don't really hear anything about rock music anymore.
Right.
Like it just stopped,
or maybe we don't hear about it.
Maybe because
that's true.
To your point, I don't. Maybe there's a.
But even like, there would be a pop rock song here and there.
I want to make sure because Lone shared this in our Discord. I want to make sure I get his thoughts on this actual video in terms of what you just think about his assessment. Is that a fair assessment, or do you have any thoughts that we didn't talk about?
No, I agree with what he said. I also think that. I think pop music and mainstream music in general is just corny by default. Because if you think of like what's cool in general, it's typically what not everybody is doing. So I think I think there's a lot of merit to what he said. I shared it just because it was similar to some conversational points that we had, but I feel like he kind of hit the nail on the head with it realistically.
Great explanation.
So yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I think it's some truth to it, but in the same token, like I think I kind of take for granted the type of listeners we are, and the type of
for sure
hip hop and any genre we listen to for that matter.
Yeah.
It's not always just mainstream stuff.
No,
because like you just put me on to somebody before the show that was really dope. You know what I'm saying? So these aren't mainstream artists, and I don't see them going anywhere. as far as
on
I
that
can
level.
Right, as far as the corny thing, you know what I'm saying? And I don't think it's gonna be whack to listen to that.
Right.
Whereas
Sure.
when rock and roll kind of took a side where just everything that came out was kind of corny.
But again, even to that, we don't know, right? Because we're not rock heads like that. I was a mainstream rock person when I was a kid, but I wasn't like deep in the trenches of understanding every indie grunge, you know, from every city and everything like we understand hip hop. So I don't feel like we understand that to speak on it almost. You know what I mean? Like, I think it really just comes down to like hip hop's not going anywhere. Hip hop is not going anywhere. It's just true, like, bro. I don't think any of these genres, the root of the genre, are really ever going anywhere. It's just like, I think the popularities just fluctuate. Hip hop just happens to be at the top right now, and the hip hop stuff that we call hip hop is just up there. So that's what's being criticized. And sure, country pop music is going to, I think it's just the pop, it's like the dash pop on all these genres is just what that is. And so like now it's going to be country pop fighting with hip hop pop.
Man, it's about to be very interesting because,
and I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care either, but it's about to be interesting with Beyonce and the artists that she featured on her album. They're all charting. So there were some black country artists that Beyonce featured on her album.
Oh, that's cool.
I think every single one of those artists are charting right now.
Oh, that's what's up.
That's
good for them.
Yeah.
Good for them.
What's interesting about it is I have this weird it's like a what's like fake news? What's it called?
Fox News?
Fox News.
Well played.
But
well played.
What's the title for that type of
fake
satire?
Satire.
There's this satire Facebook page that keeps popping up in my feed for some reason, and it's always like, because it's funny. That's probably what it is. So it'll be like Luke Combs told Beyonce that she can go somewhere and shove her country album up her butt, and like people will believe this stuff, and they're all in the comments, good for him, yay for him. Yeah, this Beyonce, I'm a glutton for like that type of stuff for some reason. So I'm going through reading all the comments. It's gonna be a crazy situation here because you got these black artists that are making country music popular on the black side of things. Right. The people that are the original country artist fans, and I mean that's another story in itself.
I have
that are going to be upset. Yeah. Because these artists are getting pub. Right. And like, you know how black America, when we latch onto something, we really latch onto it. So like, true. This summer you can probably guarantee there's going to be a lot of cowboy parties and parties where people were dressing up in denims and cowboy hats and boots.
Beyonce album parties, all kind of stuff like the album theme parties. Yep.
People are about to be really upset at black America.
Look, at my place of business, there are people, we get requests for Texas Hold'em, and it doesn't fit into anything that we do on a Saturday night.
See?
But it still go up though, don't it?
Probably don't play it.
There's a remix.
Atomic Dog
remix that we can get in there.
So the OG version doesn't really go off like that.
I mean, it probably would if we played it, but
y'all haven't tried it yet.
But what are we going to do with that?
She got some other songs on her album that can actually go in the club though. And
the thing is, there are records on there. I was like, oh, you know what I don't like? And of course, Dolly Parton said nothing about it, and she said I liked it.
Jolene?
I don't like Jolene and turn it into like I make that whole lean. No, I'm good.
I mean, she actually does
chuckle out alone on that one.
Hey, Dolly actually does the interlude before the song come on.
Yeah, I did hear that, but it was just like,
how much was that?
Jolene is one of those country songs that I liked as
before. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you know. So sometimes, all right, white folks, I see you.
Yeah.
you know, this is a show where we address OG classics or records that sometimes need to be left alone. We talk about that on the show.
Yeah, so
maybe is this one? Are you saying this is one of those?
Jolene was fine as it was before you made it into something.
Unless you can like make it just as good. Why do you touch things?
Yeah. Sometimes you gotta just leave it alone, man. Let the OG just ride out in the sunset.
Yeah, but watch out for them cowboy parties.
Them theme parties is about to be up.
Denim and boots parties is gonna hit.
Denim and trap. Watch it's gonna be country.
Yeah,
country and crippin'.
You got one.
Stop.
This makes me uncomfortable.
I'm not saying I'm going to be in attendance to some of these parties.
Would you spend one of those with a nice?
Man, I don't know what to do.
You
with
come
that.
through with your.
I need Terry in one of them the tie joints
with a little bolo tie.
I would never wear that tie.
But with a big ass cowboy hat though, I need him with that.
I'll wear a fly hat,
and
but
some Spurs.
I ain't with that
Hey man, shouts to the homies that were way ahead of the game. John Stamps and 𝐀𝐁𝐎𝐔𝐓.
Wow.
Way ahead of the
I'm
game.
telling you, they about to eat this summer.
Yeah, exactly.
And good for
But
them.
now they'd be like, nah, I'm not messing with it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Probably.
Because now it's popular.
Yeah, it's like,
So,
You know,
I don't know.
everything
It's
goes in
interesting.
waves, man. It's the circle. But yeah, Beyonce and Beyonce and her crew, there's gonna be a wave. So the wave is not going nowhere. She's got 2 more acts or whatever it's gonna be for this series.
The
So
Hive is going to be out in full effect.
they're gonna be out this
with
summer.
their country attire on. Better believe it. And let her announce this tour.
Let me find out Jay Moore is hosting getting 50 pieces of silver for a Beyonce themed
I didn't look
concert. A party, and he got chaps
I get
on.
my shekels. I ain't mad.
You gonna have chaps on and everything
Now
else.
calm down. I still gonna be me.
He gonna be dressed like John Wayne in the party, holding the mic.
See.
Talking about
Tit Willow.
If you
Tit Willow.
I'll be up there. This ain't Texas.
From me my bags.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nah, man, but that was a dope topic, man. Thank you for sharing that one, Lone, because he dropped some game on that, man. He broke that down.
I mean, we just kind of talked about that recently too.
Man,
No,
but
so hip hop.
I like
get back
his
to being
spin on it.
dangerous.
I like his I like the spin that he put on it.
Yeah,
We need hip hop to get back to being real baggy.
Yeah. Gotta be baggy, Lone.
Razor in the mouth.
Yeah. Bishop style.
Bishop style. Come on.
Not
man.
Bishop, Birdie. I'm sorry, Birdie style. Birdie style.
Yeah. We need that old Prodigy Mob Deep.
I need to
energy.
be afraid of rappers again. I'm not afraid of none of these rappers.
Nah, man.